The date is March 8th, 2013, and this is your daily dose of D&D. Thank you guys for joining me today. My name is Mad Matt Wankow, and we're here with an episode of D&D, daily D&D, every day for the month of March. It is part of Mad Matt's March Madness, which I must confess I broke the grind yesterday by not posting a video at 2 in the morning, though I had it recorded and I just needed to crop a little bit and upload. I really should have done it earlier, but I got distracted by my not quite D&D. First, because it is a Friday video and yesterday was a Thursday, I'll give a quick synopsis of what happened last night, which was nothing. Half my players didn't show up. When that happens, I get a little bit discouraged, I'm not gonna lie. You know, normally we get 4 people out of our 6, but when we only get 3 out of our 6 players, I'm kind of not interested in running a game. Because I've got cool stuff that with an improv-based DMing, the more people you have to riff off of, the better it is. And so when there's not as many people, it's not as good. So we ended up just watching a bunch of Doctor Who instead and talking about, we also did a bunch of Q&A with some of our newer players and talk things out a little bit. And our Dragonborn is starting to think about the next character that he wants to play. Now that he understands a little bit of the world. And so that's kind of cool. We talked about that, and Paul lamented about his drow, and I talked about Anna Jones, who hates Eldrin, because she grew up in the Feywild. It's just going to be, working out the next party dynamic, which is cool. Wasn't as quite as much. And I honestly did not bring my A game to the table. I had the day off yesterday, and I don't spend my day off thinking about D&D as much as you'd think would happen. I like to think about D&D while at work as an escapist type of thing. Anyway, today we're talking about my third encounter, small quest in my campaign that I'm running. In this one was a little bit odd, and what's interesting about it is that I took the original quest that I'm basing it off of, and I did a pun off of it. I changed it from the word mare, as in a horse, to mayor, as in the leader of a town, and told them that, hey, they have to go out and get a signature from the mayor. And so they ran into every stable looking for a mare to get a signature. And I'm like, you unpunned it, but I can't tell you why. But it was, an interesting thing to do. So they had to get the signature, and it was supposed to be impossible. And I effectively had made it so this king of this democracy type place, or whatever, leader of this democracy, had squirreled himself away, and because of just how their paperwork system worked, they didn't have anything to counteract it. And so he would just, stay in his rooms and not do anything, and paperwork would just pile up and nothing changed in the town. And he was all paranoid, and he had a house full of corrupted Warforged, that served him and kept people away, which was pretty cool. I threw my players in this town, and they just went out and started talking to people. One of the things that I did is that I put a leash law in the town, so that all dragonkin had to be on a leash. And so the Dragonborn was supposed to wear a leash, and the Minotaur was totally in favor of this idea, and tied a rope around him. And, this was just one of those things to show that there were broken laws in the town. One of our new players did something really interesting in which he told, he asked that, hey, since these guys are philosophically enlightened, wouldn't they have, bicycles? And I'm like, sure. And so he rented a bicycle and went biking around just because, he could. I don't know if the technology would exist, but, in actuality, a bicycle is a pretty simple concept as far as things go, especially if it's more like a tricycle. If you have anything that uses gears, and there's plenty of dwarven type of things, they've probably come up with the concept. So it's, it is not extremely far-fetched that there would be a bicycle. It is more likely that there would be a bicycle than there would be a steam engine, but not by much, because, it's kind of a step up. If you have any steam power invented at all, and gears, well, you have a bicycle, and it's easy to add steam. That's not the point. I got to, I pretty much was just waiting, trying to get them to the mayor's house, and I wanted to do some bureaucratic type things. I got them to the house, and they got in through... I don't remember exactly how they got in. There were a couple of different ways for them to get in, because, hey, I was improvising based on what they wanted to do, using the yes, but scenario, trick, maneuver, I don't know. The two thieves got in through a cart and were squashed with goods and were deposited in the kitchen. In the kitchens, our artificer was able to know enough about artificing and Warforged to know that they had the word for control on their forehead, or obey or something, instead of the word for truth, and so he sketched it on his forehead, and one of the Warforged in there used it to turn him into like a mindless automaton and send him off to the other side of the map, splitting the party a little bit. Where he got to talk to an artificer and work on a giant killer Warforged scorpion that didn't come into play. Now this was kind of fun, because as we were doing this, we're in this mansion, I'm like, hey guys, it's a mansion. You guys know what mansions are like. Other than this main room here with the two locked doors that you can't get in, you guys are free to go wherever. And Paul was like, a mansion? I know what to do. And he runs off to the other room and he brings back a clue board. So we used the board from Clue as our, general guide to what was going on, of just what rooms you were in and what you were doing. We didn't use it horribly much, but our Minotaur went into the billiards room and played billiards for probably a good half hour. And so that was fun for him. And then he started killing Warforged, and they broke through a door that I didn't really want them to be able to magically open, but I said it had locks instead of, not. And so, when you can see a lock, your thief is going to try and pick it. And I let her, because they're thieves, they should be able to get through it. And that led to a small room, and I had totally... This door I knew about. And this hallway I had prepped a little bit too. But this door had a special type of trap. I wanted to do a big hall of traps, but I didn't get as many trap doors. And so the Dragonborn has this knife that lets him open portals. So he opens up a small little peephole in the door, doesn't see anything, doesn't see an ambush. The thief checks the sides of the door, doesn't feel a trap, shoves the door open. It hits a tripwire that was set up at ankle height to catch the door opening like that. And I totally have a witness who will tell you that I came up with that idea for that door before the party checked for traps. I've got a witness. And when that happened, turrets came down, and that's where our first week ended. When we started up again, yeah, there were turrets, and there were these crystalline pillars that took the splash damage that the magical turrets were going to fire, and reflected it and amplified it. The first thief, the one who doesn't play a lot, and she really loved this encounter, ran straight for the door on the other side and started picking it. And, all these guns are starting to warm up and starting to track, and she's just to the other side. And then my sister's assassin thief, also strode into the room, and then things started firing at her. So she dodged and dodged and dodged and dodged and worked her way to the other side. And then the other, the other people in the party just went through and killed all of them, and, systematically cleared everything. The Dragonborn set off all of the pillars, which would have been great had he actually done so, had I thought about him actually doing so. I had not thought about the player intentionally triggering a trap, and so I didn't know what I wanted to do for that. If I run it again, I know, in case that happens. There would be a large, gigantic explosion that would hurt everybody in the corridor and super amplify its effects. So until they stopped it from working, it would kill them really quickly. Never be afraid to kill your party. If they do something really stupid. So, yeah, it was a great encounter, and when they opened up that door at the end of it, they were in another room that had two pictures on the walls to the left and the right. One had a dragon, the other had a staircase, and in front of them was a green wall with a black square that was the size of a painting. And so I was trying to force exactly what was going on, because with the giant scorpion, to bring the party back together, I wanted to open up a trapdoor, have the artificer fall down with the scorpion. Suddenly he's in a gigantic pit of scorpions, and his friends are there too, so they get to fight Warforged scorpions, which look ridiculously awesome. They're probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen in D&D. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to happen. And so I came up, I didn't just want to say, you guys open the door and you're in the pit of scorpions. I wanted to give them a little bit of chance to mess around with things, and that's what the dragon was about, because I assumed, wrongly apparently, because they wanted to do the dragon but decided against it, I assumed they didn't want to fight a dragon, and I assumed that they would grab the picture of the staircase and set it there, and bam, a staircase going down, and they would go down. But instead they took it and flipped it over, which was the correct answer to the puzzle, so it became a staircase going up. And when they did that, bam, there's a staircase going up to the rooms where everybody was. And, yeah, so then they were able to go and talk to the party's artificer friend, and they found the room with the mayor, who was extremely paranoid, and the Dragonborn tried intimidating by, like, grabbing him and shaking him and using Intimidate, and gave him a heart attack, and he died. Meanwhile, the Minotaur is knocking on the door still. And so the guy was dead, and I had been, kind of expecting that the party would kill the mayor, and so I knew what was going to happen, because the town was ready for him to die. I had foreshadowed that a little bit, and so everything was all hunky-dory after that, except now a lot of the party think of the Dragonborn as a murderer, because he is, and he can't deny the fact that he killed the person, and I also gave someone a magic item, who they don't remember that they have this magical item, and I will have to use it sometime. I don't know when. I'm going to have to force it on her. I don't know. I should have brought it up before knowing what it does, except she wasn't there this week, which kind of explains it. But, I don't know. I might have to change what it does. It's a cloak. If you have any cool ideas for what a magical cloak can do, leave them in the comments down below. But, if not, yeah, that was my third encounter for the campaign out of the 13-ish ones I'm going to have. They seem to be, like, really long, but there are some in the future that I almost started running this week, but decided just to watch Doctor Who instead, because one person hadn't seen it, and the Doctor is pretty legit. You should check it out. We watched Blink and Girl in the Fireplace, which are two favorite episodes, and they're the two episodes in order that I show people if they have not seen Doctor Who, which you guys all totally should. But yeah, I, was really, really pleased with how the party is starting to deal with my improving storyline, where I place them in a city, and they just start wandering around, which is what I want. That is what heroes do in cities, honestly. You don't ever see people stick directly to the mission. You get some people who go and start doing the tourist attractions, kind of like our Eladrin did, who went and rented a bicycle and went around trying to find the guilds. Or you have people who get, pissed off by a rule and go storm City Hall. There are a lot of things to do in a city. And if, and that's one of, like, the hard parts as a DM and as a world builder of coming up with a city. Because you can't, it's really hard to figure out, in our day and age, we have a horrible mental conception of how much land it takes to feed people. We live in cities where they pipe food into us so that we can eat at our convenience. We don't have to make the food here, and it's shipped worldwide. And that really throws off the numbers in our head, because we think, a city can be way cramped together. But when you have a large population, you need to come up with ways for them to get fed. And there's a lot of things that large populations are bad at, which is why in medieval settings you tend to have large open areas and, very, very low populations. But cities are always cool, and you need to come up with good ways for it. And just letting people wander around and see that it's a much bigger city than these couple of squares I've drawn on a map is pretty important. We didn't really have any combat in this encounter. The Minotaur killed a couple of Warforged, which are nothing more than actual robots, really. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I had a lot of fun without combat. No, we had combat. The one trap thing was kind of a combat. The trapped corridor of death. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and that's actually where we are in the campaign, because we didn't do anything today. So if you have any questions, please leave your comments down below. Hit like if you like the video. And if you're on the YouTube homepage and you like getting a daily dose of D&D, please hit the subscribe button down below. And I will come to your YouTube subscription box in 2 parts over 1 encounter session. Wow, that was pretty horrible. I'm not as good at this as I used to be. It's probably because I'm trying to sit down and do a couple ahead of time, and I don't have all day to think about it, because I'm recording it more in the day now instead of in the evening. If you have any suggestions for things like that I can say, please leave them down below. My name is Matt1Cow. This has been your Daily Dose of D&D. You guys stay online, and I will see you next time.